Hi guys, I'm sure you're curious as to what this is. Long story short, me and my friends have been playing Dungeons and Dragons, my first time and a lot of theirs too, but it has been really fun. My dungeon master wanted us to create more complex backstories for our characters, and let's just say I got very carried away. When showing it to a friend, they suggested, why not narrate it and put it on your channel? And I thought, you know what, why not? I don't write my own stories ever, so here's one of mine, and it's not exactly a creepypasta, but I thought it was cool. Some of you might find this cringy or stupid or dumb, and fair dues. But if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, here's Barbosa's backstory. That's my character. He's a dragonborn berserker. Ain't that cool? Barbosa grew up in the village of Drakesheim, where the strong are celebrated and the weak are scorned. From an early age, he was stronger than most whelps, taking on groups of other kids like it was child's play. His fondness for animals often got him into trouble, as he missed school frequently to play with them. One of his favourite things to do would be challenging the rams to a headbutting contest. Perhaps these two things combined explain his relatively low intelligence. As he grew into a young adult, the village began to recognize him as one of its strongest warriors, showering him with praise and food when returning from successful hunts and defending the town from threats. When it came time to join his kin in his first raid, his rite of passage into true adulthood, Barbosa was excited to once again prove himself as a mighty warrior, though fate is not always straightforward. When Barbosa laid his eyes upon the twisted, charred corpses and burning buildings that his very own kin had caused, he was stunned. He was not sure what he expected. Maybe just stealing some cattle and gold, but not that. As the screams of the townsfolk slowly died down, it left only the sound of the roaring flames. He was broken from his trance when one of his kin, a cousin named Feroci that Barbosa had grown up with, came from one of the more intact houses, carrying a seemingly unconscious human child, a young girl. Barbosa rushes over, a look of panic in his eyes, as he asks what fate the child had in store. With a nonchalant chuckle, Feroci informs him that young slaves go for a lot of money, and that he might even sell it to a cat house if they're into that. Barbosa's body seemingly moved on its own, launching himself at his cousin, grabbing him by the horns and throwing him away from the girl that was now on the ground where Feroci had once stood. Others of his kin, noticing this, demanded an explanation. Putting himself between the raiding party and the girl, he proclaimed that what they were doing felt wrong, and he would not let anyone harm this child. Shocked, his kin fell silent for a moment. The silence was only broken when Feroci, now standing, started to chant with rage in his eyes. He was chanting weak in the draconic language, over and over, eventually being joined by the assembled members of his clan, disgust and anger clear across their faces as they slowly advanced towards him. The battle was fleeting. Barbosa managed to fend off many of them, shattering their horns whilst doing so, but he knew this was a battle he could not win. With the girl in hand, he fled deep into the Wistwood until those who were once his family fell into the distance. The forest had many inhabitants. The typical animal life, such as bears that dug around hives looking for honey, to the almost otherworldly fairies that lit up the dark forest like incredibly slow shooting stars. He'd been there many times before, but never after dark, so its nocturnal beauty almost caught him off guard as he carefully made his way to a quiet, safe spot. When she first awoke, the girl saw Barbosa with only fear. Even after Barbosa attempted to explain, she tried to run, but her injuries were too severe and would not allow it. Eventually, after having time to calm down and no other options, Barbosa was allowed to tend to her wounds, protecting her from wildlife and from hunger. The girl who revealed her name to be Sarah came to trust the Dragonborn warrior. After recovering, Barbosa offered to take the girl back to a human settlement. But surprisingly, she chose to stay with her savior, stating she had no home to go back to. Years go by as the duo eke out a living in the forest together. Barbosa taught her how to survive, hunt, and respect nature, while Sarah, who was quite the clever young girl, taught Barbosa an immeasurable number of things. Things she learned from school, things her parents taught her, things that she read about, and perhaps the most treasured of all to Barbosa, she taught him what it was like to be a father. Barbosa and Sarah lived in a small cave along the side of a gentle river in one of the less dangerous parts of the forest. During one warm summer's afternoon, whilst Barbosa was fishing and Sarah was busy descaling and gutting a previous catch, a curious river nymph popped up in front of Barbosa. The pair were no stranger to Fae, but were cautious, as some had less than noble intent. She eyed the two with fascination, claiming she was new in the area and wanted to say hello to her new neighbors. Barbosa was less open to her greeting than Sarah, who quickly introduced herself and began making small talk. The two, it would seem, would become fast friends, with Carly coming to visit on an almost daily basis. Barbosa slowly but surely let his guard down and grew to enjoy the water nymph's company, telling himself there was no harm in it and it should be healthy for Sarah to have a female friend. But like before, fate would have other ideas. When Barbosa finally trusted Carly enough to leave the two alone to go hunting, his world came crashing down. He returned just an hour later to discover that the only family he had in the world was now dead. Skin as white as snow, throat torn asunder, body drained of blood, and Carly nowhere to be seen. Barbosa held Sarah for hours, just looking into the poor girl's eyes that somehow seemed to become ever more lifeless by the second. Barbosa flew into the second largest rage in his life, destroying any rock, tree, or object nearby, including his own home. When he was done, the Dragonborn sat on the scorched earth and cried, not knowing what to do next now he was alone and unable to get his revenge. But he wasn't alone. The commotion from his outburst had attracted the attention of a forest guardian. A clearly ancient and gargantuan wolf stepped into the clearing and watched Barbosa. Barbosa had never met the beast before. He had heard about it, about what it does to those who dare disrespect its forest. But he did not care. He was ready to accept whatever happens next. He was surprised to hear a sympathetic, motherly tone come from the creature. The wolf was wise, and one look at the scene told her everything she needed to know. She told Barbosa that what did this was known as a river hag, crafty creatures able to change their form, often deceiving their prey long before they attack. She sympathized greatly with his loss, claiming she had gone through the same pain more times than she can count, due to her longevity. But she also kindly asked him to please not harm the forest, as it was her home too. Barbosa apologized, telling her that he doesn't intend to stay unless Carly returns. The wolf states that this is unlikely, as Carly would be extremely cautious around a relatively large angry creature. Barbosa gave a half-hearted chuckle at her use of the word relatively. He had actually learned that word from Sarah, and hearing it left a bittersweet feeling inside of him. The wolf, reading the pain on the reptile's face, suggested she may be able to give him some guidance. Barbosa lifts his head to meet her gaze, eyes bleeding like that of a hungry dog. She claimed to have observed the hag masquerade as a helpless woman in an attempt to feed upon men where the river meets the busy bridge just outside of the forest. She states that she cannot aid him further as it is not her place, but wishes him luck before departing into the forest. Barbosa may not have been smart, but he knew how to hunt, and that was all he needed to know before setting off. The Dragonborn found the spot with little trouble. He waited there for days, not moving to eat, only sleeping when exhaustion forced him to. When finally a passing caravan of knights stopped to rest their horses by the river. Right on cue, there she was. She was hiding as a human woman, beckoning one of the guards, but there was no mistaking that face. A face that sent him into the worst state of rage he has ever experienced. He forgot any past ideas of strategy, all thought leaving his mind as he hurled himself forward with unnatural speed, plowing through the guards and grabbing a hold of Kali within seconds. Before she even realized she was caught, it was over. Barbosa tore her to pieces, ripping her chest open like paper and savagely gnawing on her entrails, eyes rolling into the back of his head in the pure ecstasy of sweet, sweet vengeance. Barbosa awoke in a prison cell, not even remembering falling asleep. Apparently after killing the hag and consuming several chunks, he had beat the remains into almost unrecognizable pieces until he passed out. The guards apprehended him and charged him with assaulting an officer. They claimed that for killing a hag that would have likely killed one of their men, his sentence was lessened to just a week. The guards also commented that he put on an impressive, albeit savage performance, saying that with strength like that, maybe he should enter the upcoming tournament. Once he gets out, of course. During his time in prison, Barbosa thought about his life, his kin, about Sarah, her smile, and how much he'd miss her. He knew he couldn't just give up. He had to live for her. He vowed to get even stronger and protect others from the evil in this world. The evil that both his kin and Kali made clear must be stopped. He decided that one day he would make a return to his village, make sure that the evil his kin commits is stopped. But before that, he had to get much stronger. Maybe this tournament is a good place to start.